All right, call this regular board meeting to order. If you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Hudson?
Here.
Trustee Maravka? Here. Trustee Richards? Here. Trustee Sandberg?
Here.
Trustee Sluse? Here. Trustee Sturba?
Here.
Mayor Moore?
Here. All right, on to public comments. Okay, moving on. Consent agenda, we've got 3 items approving the minutes of our May 13th regular village board meeting. Also, there was the executive session minutes from the May 13th meeting as well. And our payroll and accounts payable. We had a payroll for the pay period ending May 11th of a total of $71,354.41. Another payroll ending May 25th for $65,988.63. And accounts payable for the period ending June 7th. We have 2 of those. One was for $387,481.98. And of that, the general fund was $168,671.41. The BDD $216,027.57, and TIF 2 for $2,783. The other accounts payable was $45,388.82. General fund $1,100. Capital improvement fund $12,412.07. Business development district fund $30,474.25, and the TIF 2 fund $1,402.50. Are there any items in the consent agenda any trustee would like removed? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second?
Moved by trustee Sluse, second by trustee Hudson.
Trustee Hudson?
Yes.
Trustee Maravka? Yes. Trustee Richards?
Yes.
Trustee Sandberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sluse?
Yes.
Trustee Sturba?
Yes.
Okay, staff and committee reports. Troy, do you have anything?
Just on the streetscape project, they finished the excavation on Main Street, put down the majority of the aggregate base, and now they're working on Second Street, doing excavation and putting down base. So they'll probably be on Second Street into next week with the excavation. So plan for now.
Okay. Have there been any, I don't think we've had any committee reports since the last meeting, have we?
No.
So, okay. So we've got representatives from Aqua here tonight. So during their report, we've got President David Carter of Aqua, Illinois. He's going to give a little talk about the upcoming water transition. The floor is yours.
All right, thanks. It's been a long time coming. So first, I'm Dave Carter. I'm president for Aqua, Illinois. I'm joined here tonight, Angie Serafini, who I think most of you know, area manager, Tracy Fullen, who's our engineering manager, and Ellen Stark, who is our compliance manager in Illinois. As I said, you could flip, actually, next slide, just sort of our cast of characters. There you go. As we go through this, you know, I want to make sure that if you have comments or thoughts about information that we need to convey to residents, obviously we want to hear that today. We've obviously thought about this a bit and have our own thoughts about things that we can do, but you know, we see this stuff every day and we've been living this for years now, and so you know, we kind of take a lot of this stuff for granted, I think, and just want to make sure that we're being clear enough in our communications so that, you know, everyone has a good understanding of what's transpiring. And again, if you have any thoughts about, you know, things that we might need to do to make sure that residents are communicated with effectively, I'd be really happy to hear that too. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the long path. It has taken a long time to get here. We'll talk a little bit about the project plan for doing the source water transition or switch. We'll talk about our safety and compliance planning that's gone along with this. Talk a little bit about the rate impact of the change, and then the customer engagement piece. And the rate increase piece, as you all know, the rates have been kept at the levels that they were when we acquired the systems from Piatone. So when we do the source switch, it will go to our, what we call our state unified rate or consolidated rate. You'll transition to that, but we are also in the midst of a rate case here in Illinois that we're expecting to have sort of a path forward on that sometime late this year, probably December timeframe, before any kind of a new rate would be put into place. And I can talk a little bit about that too and answer any questions that you might have. You go ahead. So, I think just I guess a little bit of how we got here. We acquired the systems in 2018, and at that time it was agreed that we would pursue transitioning the community to water from our Kankakee water treatment plant, and that took a lot of time. As we initially thought it was going to be a fairly quick thing. We needed to build a pipeline here. But once we had that, we had to build a chemical feed building. We thought that the transition would be fairly rapid. As you are probably all aware, in the midst of that, our issue at University Park occurred. And it was, I will say, again, I wasn't here at that time, and I'm not trying to put the blame on someone else at all, but it really wasn't anticipated, the mechanism that was happening there. University Park is not known to have any lead service lines, so there is the lead tin solder that exists in the copper piping, but previously that was really never an issue in any other community where they've done these kind of source switches. So we really didn't anticipate that. When that occurred, it clearly put a delay moving forward here. Illinois EPA was reluctant to allow us to move forward. We were reluctant ourselves to want to move forward at that time, simply because a lot of concern about what was going on at University Park. So in the midst of that, there were a lot of additional tests that were prescribed for us to perform, one of which is called the pipe loop study. And you may have seen the trailer that was in the park a couple of years ago now, I guess. And that was basically just harvesting pipes from the community and then running water through it and evaluating that water to see how it performed with Kankakee River water. The results of that were, I'll say, successful, for lack of a better term. We were using this water additive called, it's an orthophosphate chemical that's frequently used in water systems as a corrosion inhibitor. And everything worked okay, and we were willing to move forward with that and actually expecting to move forward with that. University Park was using the same chemical, and we had some effectiveness using that until we didn't. And we hit another period where once again we got some high lead readings at University Park, and that once again kind of stopped all of the activity moving forward until we could sort that out. We worked with water experts around the country. I can tell you that a great deal of disagreement at that time as to what the mechanism was. Nobody seemed to really understand it very well. Again, it was kind of uncharted territory. And I will say that other water companies have commented to us, like, we're sorry that you went through that, but we really appreciate all that we're able to learn from that process. And we would have rather been able to learn about that process in advance, but again, it was just no one knew about this, and so we hired a water expert that works out of University of Virginia Tech University, and he was the one that really identified the mechanism, which is believed to be due to the nitrates that are in river water having an impact not really on lead, but on the lead tin solder, attacking actually the tin, causing the tin to deteriorate, exposing fresh lead surfaces, which then are able to migrate into the water system. And we've done numerous studies on that now, using different materials, using actual pipes, using copper coupons with lead tin solder on them, using Kankakee River water of different nitrate levels, and it all shows that this new chemical that we're using called zinc orthophosphate is highly effective at disrupting that deterioration mechanism. And now we've been using that chemical at University Park since 2021 and have had 2.5 years now of success using that chemical and producing water at the tap that meets all federal and state requirements. So these studies that we've continued to do, we've been successful, and again, as the years began to tick by, we were obviously in communication with IEPA and US EPA. What do we need to do to move forward here, and to put to bed a number of issues in University Park as well. One of which is that today, still, we're having to pass out bottled water to folks, though I'm pleased to say that I think that's coming to an end shortly. We did come to an agreement with the Attorney General's office in University Park last Friday that will put this kind of all behind us there. And within a couple of months, the distribution of water will stop there. But all of that is coming to light because we've been really successful at addressing this issue. And that said, as we talk about going through this process, if you look at in 2023 permitting and testing, we've been working with EPA to move forward, and really what I think has sold EPA ultimately, we've done a number of tests and they all support this, but it's time. They're pleased to see that 2.5 years have gone by of really almost continuous testing, and the water is still in good shape there, and there's no reason to think that will change at this point. But I will tell you that moving forward, there'll be a lot of caution on our end and on IEPA's end as well to ensure that we're monitoring very closely the water supply during the source switch. I guess we can flip to the next slide. So some of the things that still need to occur before we can actually complete the source switch. We have a short section of transmission main that needs to be interconnected to the city's water system. We ran the pipe here, but we didn't make the interconnection. So that will be happening here in the next couple of months. We also need to construct the chemical feed building. We have the property secured. We have the building on order. I think it's going to be delivered later this month. And we'll be getting started soon with doing the kind of pre-construction work. We're going to need to put a slab in and some other ancillary kinds of things, but that will be happening here as well. Overlaid on all of this is that we don't have those IEPA permits in hand yet. We anticipate them. They have expressed a willingness to provide them expediently, and so we're working with them to continue to push forward on that. So you'll see some things on here that are kind of our schedule. It is our schedule, not necessarily IEPA's schedule. That could change, and it could push things back. Though again, I think we're talking about like a month versus 6 months or something like that at this point, if it does get delayed at all. One of the things that will occur as part of this source transition is that we will begin feeding the zinc orthophosphate into your existing water system for about 2 months prior to the startup of the Kankakee River water. Again, just as a conditioner or preconditioner to the piping, make sure that the chemicals found its way into the entire distribution system, and it's ready for the source switch. Significant testing will be part of this. We have normal lead copper testing that we're required to do on a regular basis. Here, we're going to be doing it in the fall, and we're going to be doing it in the spring, and that just entails collecting samples from 40 homes that are. There's a series of requirements that the homes need to have. Either they need to have lead service mains to them, or lead service pipe that leads to the home, or they need to have galvanized pipe that leads to the home, or they need to have lead tin solder in the pipe that leads to the home. inside the home. It really is any lead tin solder leading to the home. And so we're working now to identify those homes and to get people signed up to allow us to test it at those facilities. So I guess my first, kind of inquiry to the group would be, any thoughts that you have in terms of, we can certainly call people, ask them, but would appreciate your support of getting people to participate. Generally, we provide a gift card for each test when we send people out to their homes, because though it's not a massive inconvenience, the lead tests themselves, I don't know if any of you have had them done at your homes previously, but it requires that the water not be used for 8 hours, 6 hours. And so generally it's an overnight thing, and then first thing in the morning we come and we draw the samples, or the customers can do it themselves, depending on the situation. So it's a little bit of an inconvenience. Somebody's going to be there early in the morning to do it, likely, and so we would certainly appreciate just your general support of people participating in this program. It's vital and necessary for us to do this. We'll also be testing, and this will be starting, I think, as early as this month. We're picking 10 homes, and they will be probably a combination of lead pipes and lead tin solder, homes with lead tin solder in them. And we're going to be taking measurements at those 10 homes every month until June of 2025. Again, just as we're calling these sentinel homes, you might see them referred to that. Really, it's a watchdog. Taking measurements at the same home month after month is the best indicator of any change, and will give us any indication that we're seeing any elevated levels of any, certainly lead. We would be able to see that. So that's the idea behind doing those 10 homes regularly. And again, that will continue on through June. We'll be communicating with customers, obviously, starting probably sometime in July on a routine basis. Obviously, we're here today to start that sort of dialogue, but we'll be doing that on a routine basis going forward. And then lastly, this is an IEPA requirement. We're happy to do it, but filters will be available for any resident who would like them. So they'll be made available, and we'll work out how we'll get them to them and all that. But again, any insight that you might have in terms of what would be convenient for folks would be appreciated too. All right. Any questions so far?
I just wanted that lead tin solder, that only affects any homes right around 1990.
That's right. Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, so that was phased out in 1986.
Yeah, somewhere around there. So.
Yeah, and so any homes built after that time shouldn't have lead tin solder. It would only be homes constructed before that have copper plumbing. Thank you. That's a good point. Again, just this is some more of the same, but just kind of talks a little bit about the things that we've done so far. And we talked about pipe loop study, all these bench scale testing kinds of analyses that we've done. Again, lots of water experts, desktop kinds of evaluations of different forms and shapes. It's been heavily studied, not only for University Park, but for here as well. So we're confident and comfortable, obviously, moving forward. Again, we'll be doing this Sentinel home testing, just enhanced water quality testing in general. You can rest easy that the water that you'll be drinking will be of very fine quality for consumption. We obviously want to be super careful about that. And then post-transition, again, just continuing on with this cadence of regular testing to ensure that everything is going along as it should. So the bad news is cost. It is. It's going to be quite a bit more expensive. And I've attempted to kind of capture, these numbers are approximations. There's a lot of things that go into these numbers, but they are in the ballpark in terms of what your current rates are versus what the new rates would be. I know your current rate, I think previously there was like a capital recovery kind of element that is no longer charged and hasn't been charged, I think, since we purchased the system. So again, it's almost going to look like an even bigger change because of that. But But currently, I think from the water perspective, the rates are the base rate, I think, is consistent by meter size. I don't think it varies by meter size. I don't think so. The aqua rate will vary by meter size, so the larger the meter, it's a higher base charge. And then the fire protection fee, I know that you have been paying a fire protection fee here, I think since the transition. So that would remain on the bill. And then it's the usage rate really that, currently the usage rate for water here is $2.23 per 1,000 gallons, and our unified state rate is $7.57. So, yeah, I mean, it's obviously considerable change, and there's a whole gradation of rates as a function of meter size on the page here, if you're interested in different levels of consumption. But on average, in Peatone, most residents, although newer homes tend to have larger meters because they're larger, requires a larger pipe coming to the house. But for most of the homes here, they're 5/8 meters, and the average consumption in Peatone is about 4,400 gallons of water per month. So with that, the new bill on the water side would be about $64, and on the wastewater side, around $72, $73. Any questions about the bills?
Yes, so
Sure.
the residents are gonna wanna know this, so I'll
Yeah.
give you an example.
Sure.
My water bill every month is $95, that's what I pay, I don't know what I pay here or there or there.
Got it.
So how much, give me an estimate.
Yeah.
Do you think my bill is going to go up, because that's going to be what the residents are gonna ask?
That's a good question. That's a water and sewer bill, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It comes
Yeah,
from Aqua,
they're
so yeah.
together.
Yeah, okay, there you
Yeah.
go. Oh, okay.
Okay. I don't have a good answer for you.
Sure.
I wish I did. It's really contingent on your usage. If you're, and this chart that's here is gonna give you an indication of what that would be. I guess if you're getting a bill right now that's around $90,
Yeah, about 90, family of 6.
I mean, it would tell me that you're using more than 7,000 gallons a month.
Sure.
Because this wouldn't get us there. So,
It's not just for me, it's just because they're gonna ask this,
Yeah.
they have a budget.
right. So maybe a way to do that is to provide, something with a bigger scale on here where we show you higher usage levels, right? We could do that.
I've heard through the grapevine that our bills are going to triple.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably about right. I mean, if I look at it here, it's going from, say, a water bill with a 1-inch meter going from 36 to 122, 40. Yeah, it's 30%. I'm sorry, it's 3 times. It's tripling. Yeah. Right.
Not 5 times, you're thinking around 3 times?
I think about 3 times. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Anyone else?
are we still gonna need to use softeners on our water, are white's gonna be better?
The water
Double
quality
question
will be a
there.
lot better, yeah. I mean, they're really, I can only speak for myself. I have a place in Bradley, and it uses, I'm drinking water from the river.
Okay.
And I don't have like any corrosion issues or anything like that. There's no rust or anything. It's much higher aesthetically kind of pleasing water from the river. It's less taste, no odor. It doesn't have any discoloration. You won't find particulate in it. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's like zero of any of that, but it's really, I also have a home in the Chicago area, and it's like Michigan water. It's very comparable,
Okay.
taste and quality-wise.
Okay.
There should not be a need for a softener. I don't have a softener.
That's
at
the
my place
question
here.
I was hoping,
Yeah.
because that's kind of good to know, because we spend a lot on salt right now,
Yeah,
and our
Yep.
whites are terrible.
right.
So this is this could
Yeah, I mean,
offset a little
you
bit.
can always, you should have a way to bypass your softener at home,
Sure.
I would think. So I would just give it a test and see how you like it once we do the switch.
Thank you,
But I do think you'll be happy without it.
thank you.
All right. Late on top is this rate case that I've been talking about, which is coming. I don't have a great estimate for what that's going to be. On the water side, the rate increase was fairly modest. The last one that we did was in 2018, and this time we asked for about a 13.5% increase. We're not going to get that. The initial position that the Illinois Commerce Commission has taken, I'll say around 60% of what our ask was. So, that would be about a 7% increase, which really over 6.5 years, particularly when some of these years have been, really high inflation years, is pretty modest. I mean, we've had chemical costs that have more than doubled in that time period. So I think it's reasonable. I mean, nobody likes rate increases. We don't like doing rate increases, to be honest, because it's painful for everybody. But anyway, that's about where it'll be on the water side. Wastewater side was bigger. Our ask was about a 37% increase. But again, it's coming in around 60%. So we're, I think, somewhere around a 20 to 23% increase proposed right now. I don't know where that will end. I really don't. I don't know if you follow along with, electric and gas rate cases that have gone through the Commerce Commission in the last, 10 months or so. But they've not fared very well. The commission that's in place right now is very, I would say, pro-consumer, and looks for ways of reducing the ask. I mean, they always do. I could tell you a little bit about that process too. The rate making process is not like we decided we need more money at all. It is a very, very rigorous process. There are at least a dozen Illinois Commerce Commission analysts that are essentially doing an audit of all of our books as and really scrutinizing our request line item by line item and attacking it where they think we're weak and where we don't have a good story to tell, I guess. So it's a back and forth with them. They ask for additional information from us. We ask for additional information from them. And at some point, we'll somewhere in the July timeframe, I think we're probably going to gel on where we're going to probably end up on all this. But then on top of that, the new commissioners at the ICC get to weigh in as well, and they make the final call. If they feel like that there's a need to reduce it for any reason, they can do that. We can certainly appeal that and try to defend our position, but they really have kind of wide latitude in terms of what they can do. We did complete a list of various projects that we've completed here in Peatone since 2019. Most recently, I think we did a little bit of work downtown, but that was fairly modest. We did do a pretty substantial upgrade of the wastewater treatment plant. It was about $1 million. Obviously, we spent a lot on the source switch. Primarily, I shouldn't say primarily, but part of it was driven by the pipe loop study that we did. That was about $1 million itself to perform that study, and then just numerous other studies that we've done, in the ensuing months and equipment and running the pipe here. Obviously, a whole lot of things go into the source change. You can look down through the list. I'm not going to read them all off, but we have made some pretty substantial investments here in Peatone as well. There'll be obviously more communication about that as we get through the year a little bit, and we have a better understanding where this is gonna end up, and we'll be doing a full communication to all the residents throughout Illinois, actually, that we have. So. And then just a little bit regarding our communications plan, and this is really kind of geared more toward the source water switch, but we'll be doing a lot of direct mailings. We'll be doing email communications. Obviously, we use our website, perhaps the village's website, where appropriate, to help get the message out to residents. Social media, we have access to be able to target social media outlets that can be sometimes helpful in getting the word out. Press releases, interviews, perhaps, if they're valuable. And then, you know, as we are here today, meetings with the community leaders. So that's kind of it. I will say, if you switch back or keep going back, there's a couple more slides back there. Just a little bit more about, right there. Just a little bit more about the rate case that we filed. We filed it in January of this year. It impacts all of our customers in Illinois. It's not unique to Peatone or any other community. As I mentioned, it's been 6.5 years since we did the last filing. Again, driven by operating costs and increases in operating costs and in investment. And if you flip one more slide, there you go. This one talks about what goes into our rates and what we have to demonstrate to the Illinois Commerce Commission. And that is that there are two aspects to it. There's kind of our operating costs, and if you think that's going to be like consumables, you know, chemical costs, those kinds of things, labor, all of those just kind of costs that go into operating the system. We are allowed to recapture those costs without markup. So we don't make money on that, on operating costs, but we do get to recover those costs from the Illinois Commerce Commission. The piece where we're allowed to earn a return is on the investment piece. So, and really only on the investment piece where we're using our own money to purchase those assets. So a utility company like ours, we make money, but we generally plow it all back into our infrastructure. And so they do allow us to earn. So that's things like, you know, obviously the upgrades that I just showed on the last slide, where we did you know, improvements at the wastewater treatment plant. We ran pipe, and we're building a chemical feed building here, and all those other you know, pieces of infrastructure. But that's the piece that we're able to earn a return on, and so again, that's when we do a rate case, we obviously have to share all of our operating costs with the state, with the ICC, and then we also have to show them the costs of the infrastructure that we've invested in. And from those things, they're able to define what we should get as an increase overall. And then you still have to kind of design a rate structure that allows for that return, and that's a whole different ballgame. But again, it is something that has to ultimately get approved by the Illinois Commerce Commission. So that's all I had today. I don't know if you have any questions, or you know, it gets a little bit long and boring maybe, but.
My only kind of thoughts is, you know, we had some communication from your headquarters, I think, about the lead service lines.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there was quite a bit of confusion on that, the residents.
Right.
And so, you know, I just encourage you to make sure that, you know, your message is
Clear.
consistent and clear
Yeah.
as you go through this transition, because this is a big deal for the residents. I know we talked a little bit about maybe, you know, talking about water conservation. I mean, if the water price, you know, water's gonna cost 3 times as much, you know, maybe have some educational things on, you know, fix your leaky toilet, you know, put a,
Right.
you know, just little things like that. It's gonna add up to a lot of money now, that it's the water's more expensive, so.
Right.
And just kind of a general thought is, you know, the reason that we sold the system to Aqua, the rates that we had were not really sustainable to keep the system running the way it should. Looking at their list, I mean, if you take out the water source, how much they spent on that, I mean, they've spent about $11 million in the last 5 or so years that, you know, we were running the water system just kind of what comes in, goes out kind of thing, and we weren't saving a whole lot of money for capital projects. So any capital projects we needed to do would have had to be a bond issue, or a few years ago, we actually did a referendum to pay for some water and sewer work. So, you know, nobody likes to pay more for it, but, you know, I think we have gotten some benefit of this. the fact that we haven't had to pay the extra rates, you know, we expected to start paying these in 2020, and so, you know, we've had 4 years of really unsustainably low rates. So I know it's not gonna make anybody feel better, but there was a rationale that we did this, and so,
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that it's not unusual. You know, I've worked with many, many, many communities in my career, and I will say that it is not unusual at all for communities to have low rates, but sometimes be sort of really proud of those low rates. And I have seen the downside of that. You know, it feels good. No one really likes to put pipe in the ground. You don't see it. I mean, if you've got $1 million to spend, you can replace some pipe, or you can put in like a really nice, you know, jungle gym in the park. And people are gonna like that. You know, they can see it, it's very visible. Until the pipes don't work and you're having water main breaks and all kinds of, you know, really big issues that you know, just hamper your life, really. It is something that I will say our company grapples with. We recognize that rates are getting higher, and we have to make sure that they're sustainable. But we also have this other driver, which is we have to make sure that we're compliant with all state and federal regulations, which seem to be ever tightening. The most recent is, I may have heard about PFAS and PFAS-related chemicals that have now been identified as a hazard, and companies are on the hook to treat for those chemicals in their water systems. We're fortunate we don't have that here. That's a good one. We won't have to spend additional money on here, but again, it just seems like lead service lines and other, doing the lead service line replacement. So I did want to comment real quick on your first point about that letter that got sent out, and I apologize. This community, you were not unique in having questions about that. It was a state mandated letter. What we did wrong, we should have put a cover letter on it, and we didn't, and shame on us for not doing that, because again, I think it's one of those things where we're really close to it, and we understand what it's all about, but when you send it out, you're sending it to people who have little knowledge of this, and we obviously need to be more sensitive to that. So, but that was a state mandated letter, and it goes along with right now. The state of Illinois has embarked upon inventorying all of their lead service lines that exist throughout the state. So we're doing it for all the utilities that we own, and municipalities are doing it. I got the same letter at home from my municipal. I knew what it was, but I'm sure others didn't. So this is going on right now. The idea is that they want to eliminate all lead service lines by, well, it varies, but it's going to start in 2027. Not to say that we couldn't remove them before then, but it starts in earnest in 2027, and it will generally be a 10-year time frame to eliminate any lead service lines that still exist in the communities. So,
all right, well, thanks for
Okay.
coming. Anybody else have any questions?
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch, keep in touch. Okay, moving on, my comments, the clerk printed out my report for this month. And on to old business, approve resolution authorizing the execution of a contract with TRIA Architecture for Village Facility Study. This was on the agenda back in March, and we decided to move it out till June because we were concerned about any extra costs that the streetscape project would have. So far, knock on wood, we haven't had any drastic overruns on that project. So we decided to put it back on the agenda, and yeah, any discussion or comments? If not, this will be resolution 24-R-08. Entertain a motion to approve it.
Motion?
Second.
Moved by trustee Richards, seconded by trustee Sluse.
Trustee Hudson?
Yes.
Trustee Maravka? Yes. Trustee Richards?
Yes.
Trustee Sandberg?
No.
Trustee Sluse?
Yes.
Trustee Sturba?
No.
All right, on to new business. approve payout one to Iroquois Paving Corp. in the amount of $206,757.12 for the streetscape project. Troy, you wanna comment on that?
This is just their first invoice, holding 10% retention. It's mostly the storm sewer work that was done. This is the majority of it.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay, we'll entertain a motion to approve payout one.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by trustee Sturba, second by trustee Maravka.
Trustee Maravka? Yes. Trustee Richards?
Yes.
Trustee Sandberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sluse?
Yes.
Trustee Sturba?
Yes.
Trustee Hudson?
Yes.
All right, item F, approve hiring a new full-time police officer, Joseph Santa Caterina. His resume is in your packet, and this was to replace a full-time officer who resigned a couple months ago. Any
Motion.
comments, chief? Or- No? Go ahead.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by trustee Maravka, seconded by trustee Richards.
Trustee Richards?
Yes.
Trustee Sandberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sluse?
Yes.
Trustee Sturba?
Yes.
Trustee Hudson?
Yes.
Trustee Maravka? Yes.
All right, item G.
Mayor, if I may just say
Oh,
one
yeah.
thing. I'm gonna bring him to the June 24th board meeting, that's the next board.
Correct.
And to actually get sworn in, if that's all right with everyone.
Yep.
Item G, close regular session to go into executive session for discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under Open Meetings Act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by section 2-06. So need a motion to,
Motion.
Second.
moved by trustee Hudson, seconded by trustee Maravka.
Trustee Sandberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sluse?
Yes.
Trustee Sturba?
Yes.
Trustee Hudson?
Yes.
Trustee Maravka?
Yes.
Trustee Richards?
Yes.
All right, and there'll be no action after the closed session except possible release of the executive session minutes.